Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you 10 tips to help you prepare for pouring your concrete deck, which is also your concrete slab floor for the upper level. So I just want to clarify a few things first. One is that I'm not an expert and that you should work with your contractor and your engineer and the experts when you are pouring your concrete deck. I'm just someone with a little experience in the process as a homeowner and someone who was really involved in the process of building our home. And so I just wanted to share some tips on, on the process and some things that I would have found helpful. Secondly, this video is not a how to pour a concrete deck video. This video is just tips and advice for preparing so that that process is not difficult, and I hope it's something that you will find useful. Then thirdly, so our home has 3 floors, and so we've done about 3 decks. One of them is 400 square meters, the other one's about 300 square meters, and the other one is about 200 square meters. So there are 2 methods to pouring the concrete deck that I'm familiar with. There's the one where you use the ready mixed concrete that comes from the factory. They put it in a truck and then they bring it to your site and they use pumps and pipe to pour. This video and these tips are not necessarily for that method. They're more so for the second method, which is the manual method, where you have a big team and it's very labor intensive and all the work is done manually. And that's what this video is about. I've used both methods, but these tips are for the second method. And I think that one is more common in Zimbabwe because it's probably cheaper, and yeah, that's why I think. But anyway, so here are the 10 tips, guys. Okay, tip number 1 is your budget. So your contractor or engineer will give you a bill of materials that you need for the job. I recommend that you sort of like do an additional 5 to 10% above that bill of materials. So for example, if they say you need 400 bags of cement, I recommend you get 440 bags of cement. The reason is that this is a manual process and it's subject to human error. And I would really hate for you to run out of materials in the middle of the job. And if there are any excesses, you can still use the cement and 3/4 stones and river sand in other parts of the process. So don't worry. Then also, I'd recommend that you keep a little bit of cash on hand when you begin this job, because sometimes you might realize that, you know what, you need additional reinforcement and suddenly now you're looking for timber to help with reinforcement, or the water truck you prepaid for did not come on time and now you've had to hire another truck to come with water, or you're falling behind and you realize you need additional help. And so it's advisable that you have a little bit of cash on hand so that you can deal with emergencies. Tip number 2 is regarding your labor. So remember, this is a very labor intensive process. And so it's very important that you have a well motivated and very reliable team. And that means ensuring that people have food and gumboots and safety gloves and that they're equipped to do the job. Then something else I want to mention, because it's like everyone's situation is different. So some people act as their own contractor, some people have contractors, and some people rely on their builders. I've seen different people do different things. So you just need to make sure that you have enough help with people that are sort of like supervisors, like experienced builders and a contractor, and you yourself to supervise these workers on the job, because you're going to have like 20 people doing different things, and it's important that at each point there's someone supervising to ensure that the engineer's instructions are being followed and that everyone is playing their part in the process. Believe you me, sometimes I've heard that people run away in the middle of pouring the deck because it's kind of a very very consuming task. And sometimes people just decide that, no, I don't want to do this. So tip number 3 is regarding your workflow or critical path. So remember, this is a big job and it's super expensive. And in my opinion, it's the riskiest part of the whole build, because I've heard of decks collapsing, and when that happens, you pretty much don't have a house, in my opinion. So you gotta get it right, and you really need to understand the processes. So one of the things to be very thoughtful about is where you offload your materials. So when your steel is delivered, make sure that the steel fixer has enough space to work. When your 3/4 stones, your cement, and your river sand are delivered, they must be close to the mixing site where the concrete gauge will be mixed. And so that it's not like people have to walk, a long way in that direction and then to that corner and that corner. Things must sort of just be close to each other to make the job more efficient. Another thing you need to be thoughtful about is how you're going to set up the teams for each part of the process. So you will have a team that is using wheelbarrows to bring the materials to the mixing site. And then you'll have a team that is actually mixing the concrete as per the engineer's instructions. And you'll need an experienced builder or your contractor to be supervising to make sure that mix is being done correctly as per the engineer's instructions. Then you'll have another team that is then filling their wheelbarrows with that concrete mixture and taking it up the ramp to the deck and pouring it. And then up there, you'll need someone who preferably, your builder or your contractor, to ensure that that it is being poured correctly and that it's being leveled. You'll also need to hire a poker or concrete vibrator to remove any air pockets out of that concrete mixture, so that the concrete can set nicely and correctly. Also, during the pour, make sure that there's someone inspecting underneath where the deck pans are, so that you know that there isn't any concrete falling through the deck pans, and that the deck pans are really holding up the deck firmly, steadily, with no issues, and that everything is in order. And another thing you need to be thoughtful about regarding the workflow or critical path is ensuring that each team member or each process has a designated path and route. You don't want people colliding or creating confusion. And you must be able to just look around and know that, oh, okay, that person is going there, that person is doing this, and that person is doing that. It just shouldn't look like confusion. And so make sure that, the guys on their wheelbarrows, their path is cleared. If you need to lay timber or bricks on the floor for them to move, or whatever they need, so that their wheelbarrows can move efficiently, and making sure that your ramp is wide enough to accommodate the wheelbarrows going up and the wheelbarrows coming down. If you need to do 2 separate ramps, that's fine. But just make sure that everyone's path is efficient and clear. Tip number 4 is regarding time management. It's highly advisable that you complete this job in 1 day. I know some people it's taken them 2 days, but I guess, everyone, the size of the deck really will dictate that, but it's highly advisable that you finish in 1 day. And also, I think you really need to start even as early as 4 a.m. before it gets hot, and while, the attitude is still right. And then I would also recommend that you sort of have a schedule for the day, so that you can tell that, okay, we've been working for about 2 hours, where are we? And now it's been 4 hours, we should be here by now. That way you're able to see if you're on track, and if you need extra help or something, you can, you have a chance to get things right and get back on track. So tip number 5 is regarding your deck pans. Deck pans are basically like a steel sheet and a steel rod that hold up the concrete being poured. And so it's important that you get good quality deck pans where the shape is intact. So remember that when you pour this concrete, the top part is the floor for the second level, but the bottom part is the ceiling for the lower level. Yes, I know you can do drop ceilings, but I didn't do drop ceilings. So it's important for you to have a good quality deck pan, because if you have bad deck pans, then the ceiling underneath is going to require so much work for it to be flattened and and to be visually appealing. So make sure you get good deck pans. Then my other tip regarding deck pans is making sure that you get them close to the day of the works being done. So they're charged daily. And so if you have your deck pans delivered today, make sure that your steel fixer comes by tomorrow to start tying the steel, and make sure that he finishes as soon as possible so that you can start pouring. You don't want a situation where you get the deck pans today, then the steel fixer comes 2 weeks later, then the pour is done 2 weeks later, because you're also going to need these deck pans for 21 days after the pour to continue holding the deck. Then also, I would, as much as deck pans are great and wonderful, I highly recommend just having some timber on the side in case you need extra reinforcement. Tip number 6 is regarding the experts that you need to carry out this job. So the engineer is the one who is given the instructions and specifications of how the job should be carried out. He is the one that will tell you the type of steel and the volume of steel that is needed for your deck, of which then the steel fixer will tie it and everything. And the engineer will review that the steel has been tied correctly. The engineer is also the one telling you the ratio of your concrete mix, how much cement and 3/4 stones, and the strength of and how strong that concrete needs to be. So the engineer is very important, and he's the one that will give you the final go ahead to say, you know what, you can go ahead. He must come on site to inspect the site and sign it off that he has inspected and give you the go ahead. That means he must come and make sure that the deck pans have been installed correctly and that yes, they can hold the concrete. He must inspect the steel fixer's work, and then on the day of the pour, he must also be there as well to assist with inspecting and reviewing and ensuring that that the thickness of the deck is correct. Number 7 is regarding your water system. You will need lots of water for mixing the gauge and for curing the cement for 21 days. So I highly recommend that you have at least one water tank that is delivered the day before, so that on the day when you're starting, you have some water on hand. That's if you don't have water on site. And whatever your situation may be, just make sure that the water can be ferried from place to place efficiently. So make sure you set that up so that it's easy and efficient and that your work flows well. Tip number 8 is regarding cleaning. So yay! The job is done. But now the site must be cleaned. So make sure that all your wheelbarrows are cleaned, your gumboots, the shovels, everything, it must be cleaned. Also make sure that the concrete is removed at the mixing site, because if you don't remove it, it's going to harden and create an unnecessary slab in your yard, and that may affect your landscaping. So just make sure you remove that concrete. And then also all the cement bags, make sure that they're gathered and that they're put in one place, and that either you dispose of them, or if you're going to use them for something else, that they must be packed neatly somewhere. And then also all the parts that you've created for the wheelbarrows must be removed. I assume that only the ramp will be remaining so that you can continue with the build. Tip number 9 is to check your weather forecast. So obviously you don't want to do this on a rainy day or the coldest day in winter or on a super windy day. So just be sure to check your weather forecast. And I know it's not always perfect, but just try and make sure that you pick a favorable day to do this task. Tip number 10 is regarding you. So I know everyone's situation is different. Some people have very good, reliable contractors and they can look the other way. But if you're like me, I can't afford those super great contractors. And also, I love the construction process. I like to monitor it. And I know it's a very consuming thing, and I'm very okay with how consuming it is. I'm okay with it, and I really thoroughly enjoy it. And so, if you're going to be really involved in pouring your concrete deck, I would like you to sort of mentally prepare, psychologically prepare to deal with being constructive about issues and to really plan the day and get to know the entire process. Because one thing is that the plan will not go according to plan. But when you have planned, there's just something about planning that helps you deal with the situation when it's not going according to plan. So you might have some people, a bad apple that quits on you. There might be a power cut, and then suddenly your poker that you've hired isn't working. So have a generator or something that you can use so that your poker continues working. There's just so many things that can happen. But when you've taken time to plan, um, it just gets done correctly. And because you know what measures to take, and you're just better equipped by planning. And so if you are pouring a concrete deck, I sincerely wish you the very best, and I hope that this video is encouraging and useful to you. Bye for now. Take care.